Hey, thanks for checking out Macatar Mania. Today, I'm going to show you how to use the MIDI Captain 10-button MIDI foot switch with the Headrush Core multi-effects pedal. I will teach you how to use it to not only change rigs on your pedal, but how to use it for the looper without going outside of your current rig. This foot switch can add so much functionality to just about any multi-effects pedal you have or other gear like keyboards, computers, all kind of musical equipment. But today we'll focus on the Headrush Core. And the things you learned today from how to program it, you'll be able to use with just about any foot switch. But for those of you Headrush Prime Core and Prime Flex owners, this will be geared directly to you. When you purchase the MIDI Captain foot switch, it comes with everything you need. It can be powered by batteries, rechargeable batteries, which can then also be charged by the USB cable, or you can use the included MIDI cable, which goes in the back. There's MIDI in and MIDI out. I prefer to use the USB cable. It's easier and it charges the batteries. No matter what, you get everything you need in the package to get started. I have owned and enjoyed using the Headrush Core multi-effects pedal for several months now, but I've always wanted to find a way to be able to change my rigs apart from the 5 buttons on the bottom of the actual pedal. But also I'd like to go into the looper without having to go outside of the current rig I'm using. If you have the Core, you know what I'm talking about. It's great, lots of functionality, but going into the looper and back and forth between rigs can be a pain. That's why I found a way through the MIDI Captain to activate the looper, to start and stop, to record, to peel, and to even mute it without ever clicking outside of the rig I'm using. And I can go back into the rigs and switch my rig as I'm making a loop. So this is cool. You're going to love this. The first thing you'll need to do is to understand that MIDI sends a digital signal between the MIDI foot switch and your pedal through pressing buttons, right? And you have to know what channel that signal is being sent on. So here's what you do. You go into the global settings on your pedal. You scroll down to where you see MIDI on the left side here. Now, notice right here, I have it set to Omni, which means the pedal can receive signals from any channel from the MIDI foot switch. You can be specific if you want and change this by clicking and turning it to, let's see how many options there are, I can't remember. Okay, there's 16. Now we're going to use Omni so that no matter what signal or what channel I have set on the MIDI, it will come through. Once you do that, go back to your regular settings. Now I'm going to open one of my rigs and show you how you can use the MIDI foot switch to change rigs. So in case you like to use it like I do in foot switch mode, where I turn off and on everything down here, this is what you do. Go up to the Assign button, push that, and you'll see right there, MIDI program. See that? If I click on it, it'll let me change it over here, right? But I have this one set to 4. That's what I want to use. Once I'm done with that, press save. Save that. We'll just go on out of there. That's the first step. Now we'll go back to the MIDI controller and program it from there. Hey, if you enjoy content like this where I talk about guitars and gear and funky stuff and electronics and all of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if this video has been helpful for you, please leave me a thumbs up. And while you're at it, leave me a comment below. Tell me what you think about the MIDI Captain, the Headrush Core, or whatever you want. I love hearing from you. Before you can make adjustments to the settings, you need to turn it on in geek mode, which is very simple. The power button is back here. Before you turn that on, you hold down button 2 or 3. So I'm going to hold down 2. Turn on the switch. The lights come on, you let go. It opens up in geek mode. First, let me explain how the MIDI Captain foot switch is laid out. You have across the top, you have button 1, 2, 3, and 4. Across the bottom are A, B, C, and D. Over here are the page up and page down buttons, which simply move between the different pages of functions that you can access. So here's an example. On page 1, which I'm on right now, I can use all these buttons however I determine by programming the numbers and program or command changes into them. When I change up to page 2, these are completely different. I can program them completely different way. So let's say on channel 1, I want this to turn on rig 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this might be used to turn on different functions or effects in there. I can do that. But then if I think, oh, I want to do it differently, I can go up here and program this to do anything I want. Turn on different rigs, affect the loops, turn on blocks, all kind of stuff. Then page 3, page 4, whatever, all the way up to page 16. But what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what I've already programmed for page 1. These buttons will turn on rig 1, 2, 3, and 4 according to program change number I put in on the pedal, which I showed you earlier, that little number at the top. Okay, here's a close-up view of what's happening with the foot switches as I've already programmed them. I'm going to push button number 1, which is the top left button. Notice we're on page 1. Remember I said there's 16 pages you can scroll through. This is page 1. Now, you're going to notice that PC down here says 0. Now, it's a little weird, but you have to be one number less than the PC number in your foot switch. So, for instance, when I press this button, number 1, PC signal goes over to my pedal and it turns on PC number 1, which is program change number 1. That's my first rig, and I call it Tight Strat MJ. When I press button 2, it's sending PC number 1, which will activate the second rig I have, and that is Greenback Pro. This one sends PC number 2, but the actual activation in the pedal is number 3, which becomes a different preset, and then this sends the next one. Now that's pretty simple. I showed you all you have to do is in your Headrush Core, you choose the PC number at the top, the assign page. That's all you have to do. Then you match it over here by -1, okay? That's pretty simple. Now let's look at how you can use any button, but specifically we're going to use the A, B, C, and D buttons to do more complex command changes. Now here's what we do. I'm pushing the bottom left button, which is button A. Okay. Now notice right here there's a lot of numbers. 69, 127, 69, 0. That is now going to send 2 different signals each time I press. The first time I press, see that? It's changing. So the first time I press, it's activating something. Second time I press, it's turning it off. The reason that it says 69 is that corresponds directly with the CC number on the Headrush Core instructions. 69 is looper, start, and stop. I programmed that in to start and stop the looper. I'll explain the other numbers soon, but I wanted you to understand that first. Now I push button 2. We see it turns to 70 and then 127 and 70 and 0. I'll show you how to program those in a moment, but those are simply looper record, and the second time I push the button, it will stop recording. Now we'll go to the third one. I did 72 because I wanted to control looper peel, which is to unrecord or erase what you just recorded. Push that as many times as you want. Every time you push it, it's going to peel back another layer of the song. Now, the last button I programmed here on D, it turns on number 73, which is muting the looper. right? So every time I push that, it should mute the looper. Okay, let's take a look at how I programmed it and why I programmed it this way. Okay, the first thing we will do is we will program in a simple PC program change to one of the foot switches. What you do is you push down the button you want to use. In this case, I'm pushing the top left button, number 1. Now that shows what's already programmed there. It's a PC 0. Now what you do is when you're ready to change this, you push this button down, brings up this tiny table. This is a lot smaller than it looks on the screen here, but I have it magnified. The first thing you'll see is you want to see what channel you're going to go in. And in this case, I've done everything on channel 1 because if you remember, I said I set my Headrush Core to accept Omni, which is any channel. So we don't need to worry about that. We spin this wheel, see it moves everything around. Spin the wheel until we come over to this little section and it says PC. I push on here, I can change it to a lot of different things. You can do up, which makes the action happen when the pedal comes up. Down, when you push down, the action happens. PC is what we want, or you can do CC, which is control change. We're going to go back to PC. When we're ready, we click on that button and it seals it. Now it won't change until I come back. Now what I do here, because I wanted to program it to turn on my first rig with the number 1, you have to use 0 here. I don't exactly know why, but that's how it works. So we push on this and we can scroll through 127 numbers. You can go backwards, see that? But we're going to go back to 0. It's really small. And we're going to say, okay. Now when you're all done and you're happy with that, then all you do is you go back and push the button. That is programmed. Now watch, there it is, there's the 0. Pretty simple. Same thing if I push button 2, it shows you that I already programmed a 1. I push 3, I already programmed a number 2. If I pushed 4, it programs number 3. Now watch this, you ready for the magic? What if I want to change more than just 4 presets or 4 rigs? That's where pages come in. I'm going to push the page up button right now. Notice it changed, we're on page number 2. Now it doesn't show anything yet because I haven't pushed the foot switch. So watch what happens. I'm going to push foot switch number 1, and now that one has been programmed to 4, which will turn on my 5th rig. Don't ask me why, but I have to be at 1 number lower here than I am on the rig. I think because the first button is actually considered 0 on the MIDI Captain. Same thing here, goes to 5. Button number 3 brings up 6. Button number 4 brings up 7. That's all on page 2. That's as far as I've programmed, but let's go back down to page 1 and I'll show you what else you can do using CC, control change command. Let's take a look at programming in a control change to one of the foot switches. I have chosen the A button, which is the bottom left foot switch. When I click on it, you'll see now it brings up 69, 127, 69, and 0. Let's find out how I did that and why I did it that way. So let's go back here. Remember, we're using channel 1. That first little column is the channel, the MIDI channel. It's just like, say you're picking a radio station. We're using radio station number 1 to send a signal to my pedal. I want to use a CC, not a PC, not an NT, down, up, or PC, where you can use a CC, which is a control change. And if you grab your Headrush Core instruction sheet, you'll see that 69 is the CC number you need to program in to activate or stop recording on the looper. So I found that and I programmed that in. I can mess around and go back and forth. Now we're back down to 69. When I'm happy with that, I press the button to confirm it. Now, notice I have a 127 here. That means I want it to be turned on when I push the foot switch, right? If I change that number, it could be anywhere above 64, it'll turn it on, but we're just gonna leave it at 127. That's just the way MIDI works. Don't ask me why. Then, really important, you need to go to the far right column and you need to turn on the T. There's either a dash, which means nothing happens, or T, which means toggle. So that toggles the switch off and on. Now I'm going down to the second line here, keeping everything the same all the way to there, but then when I get to here, I programmed in a 0 because you want to shut off recording, right? So 127 turns it on, 0 stops it. And then go over to here. You want to make sure this T is turned on. There it is. Good to go. Now that I'm happy with my settings, I go back to button A and I press it down, and there it is. See? Now it's a little weird. It shows a 0 up top, but watch what happens. It just shows you which signal is being sent. 127 right now 0, 127, 0. Basically, that's how it works. So far, I've showed you how I programmed the top 4 buttons, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the bottom 4 buttons. As an example, this is button B, and I'm turning the looper record off and on. Button C is doing looper peel, and button D is muting the looper, so I don't want to hear the volume out. That's what I've done on page 1. Now, if I want to, I can scroll up to page 2. I'll show you what I've done here so far. I used button 1 to turn on 4, button 2 to turn on 5, button 6, whatever, blah, 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 all the way through. You could virtually go through and put all your rigs in here. As long as you assign the right PC number to your particular rig, you can go through all 16 pages, the MIDI Captain, and program it to turn on every foot switch. It's as easy as that. All right, we're back looking at the full pedal, and I want to just remind you what we did. I'm going to click all the way down to page 1. Now, if you click too far, you'll go to page 16. I just want to go back up 1. All 8 of these buttons are programmed just like I want them. So if I click this right here, and if it's connected to my Headrush Core, you'll see that it will send the signal 72, which is looper peel. Right? You can get out of that. I can go over to here and start recording, stop recording, start recording, stop recording. I can start and stop the actual loop right there. I can mute the loop. But let's just say I'm making a loop, but I don't like the particular rig I'm using. That's where I just go, bam, change rigs, bam, 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 change the rig. I can still do looping down here. I can start, stop. That's a record, stop recording, overdub, right? All that kind of stuff. Down here, I can do stop and start the loop. Let's take a look at how I can activate the looper completely from the MIDI Captain. I can have a rig open that I want to use, but I can use these bottom 4 buttons that I programmed to turn off and on the looper and all kind of stuff. So let's just start. We will just start by pushing button B, which I set to record. It's recording now. Now I push it again, it switches over to just playing it. If I push again, it'll let me overdub. Push it again, it's just playing. Push it again, it's overdubbing. Now we're playing, overdubbing, playing. Pushing button A stops and starts the playback. See, it's just playing back now. Okay. Now, if I want to peel, I press button C. See that? Got all those layers peeled off. If I am playing back something, I just programmed button D to mute the output. And that is kind of sweet if I want the looper to keep going, but I don't want to hear it. So that's all possible because I changed the settings on these bottom 4 buttons, A, B, C, and D, to control the looper on my page 1 settings. I hope this video made better sense of MIDI controlling for you. I know that when I first bought this, I tried to look at the manual and I watched the manufacturer's videos, and the gentleman's a genius who explains everything, but he doesn't explain it on my level, which is way down here. So I hope my video was helpful for you. It's basically a matter of programming each button to do what you want it to do. To send a program change, which simply changes the rig on your Headrush Core, or a command change, which really adds a lot of versatility because you can add a whole lot of functions to just one button. If this was helpful, please leave me a comment below and tell me how it helped you. If you have ways I can improve the video or even improve my use of the MIDI controller, please share with all of us. I look forward to seeing you the next time. Thanks for watching Mac Guitar Mania.